Here we are again, folks. Brother Peter with tidbits from the Word. We right now are in chapter 12 of the book of Hebrews. We kind of glanced for a minute or two chapter 11. You could take chapter 11 of the book of Hebrews and probably preach the rest of your life. Every day, nearly all day, every day, for the rest of your life, and not exhaust the book of Hebrews. And chapter 11 is the chapter which was by faith. Now wherefore, he said, because of the faith that you've read about of those folks in chapter 11, count it all joy when you fall into divers temptations, and you have things happen to you that would tempt you to go the opposite direction, and you do not yield to those temptations, but you follow God. We have a very serious problem before us today, that the television set, the people of today, the ladies, let's not say ladies, the women of today present their bodies as a something for men to worship, to look at, to dwell on, to desire the flesh. Well, let me tell you this. Every time you have a fleshly desire, the only way to put it down is to have a spiritual answer. And I asked the Lord back in 1972 when I got saved. I looked at women with fleshly desire. I see men today do the same thing. They look at a woman, they start at the top of her head and they look at her to her toes and back up. And they look at that woman only with fleshly desire, which is totally, absolutely, 100% evil. It's the same thing that happened to Adam when he was tempted in the garden. He looked at Eve with a fleshly desire. He looked up and down her and he said, wait a minute, whoa, if I don't sin, I'm not going to have this woman. So he sinned. He sinned to have that woman, and he had the woman. But he also got a condemnation, brought a condemnation on this earth that all men would inherit. And that was the fallen nature of man, so that he could have fleshly desire fulfilled. And that is the thing that men have been doing ever since, every day. Now listen to what he says at the end of chapter 12. For our God is a consuming fire. Now listen to Brother Peter if you don't hear anything else. You are going to be chastened if you follow the ways of the world. If you follow the desires of the world. If you cannot contain yourself, you will be chastened for it. God chastened those that are his, many times. He said, wherefore, we, receiving a kingdom which cannot be moved, let us have grace whereby we may serve God acceptably without reverence and with godly fear. Now, without reservation and with godly fear. Now, the word is reverence. Okay. To reverence somebody is to do what they say, to follow their direction, to reverence your mother. If your mother says don't do something, don't do it. If your mother says do something, do it. Study to show yourself approved, 2 Timothy 2:15. Study to show yourself approved. A workman need not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Let's back up to verse 27 of chapter 12. And this word, yet once more, signified the removing of those things that were shaken, as of things that are made, that those things which cannot be shaken may remain. If you're going to worry about the things of the world and the things that are shaken, the things that are not going to remain, then you're not going to perform and be concerned about the things that are going to remain, which is the things of God, whose voice then shook the earth. But now he hath promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not the earth only, but also heaven. Listen, God said at the cross that he is going to change the earth and heaven. To the fact is that paradise was going to be taken from the height of the earth to heaven, and the Son of God was going to go to heaven to sit down at the right side of the Father, and his eyes become a consuming fire. And look at verse 25. See that you refuse not him that speaketh, for it is they escape not who refuse him that speak on earth. Much more shall not we escape if we turn away from him that speaketh from heaven. We're not going to escape if we turn away from God's word. If we turn away from what God says, we're not going to escape. I can tell you this. Every day you're not in the Bible will be a day you'll be scourged for that. You'll be punished for that. How, Brother Peter, will I be punished if I'm not in the Bible? I'll tell you what you do. You let Brother Peter go a day and not be in the Bible. See if he sleeps that night. He ain't going to sleep at night. He's not going to sleep at night. Why? He is chastened of his own conscience and of his own self, that he neglected to walk on the doorsteps that get him into the house of the peace, long-suffering, gentleness, meekness, temperance. That's the house I want to live in. Don't you want to live in that kind of house? Yes, I do. A peaceful house. A better house with a better mediator. Verse 24 of chapter 12. And to Jesus, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaketh better things than that of Abel. Better things than that of Abel. Wow. Just think. Abel's blood cried from the ground. When God said to Cain, where is your brother Abel? He said, am I my brother's keeper? And God said to Cain, his blood crieth from the earth. His blood crieth from the earth. The blood of Abel cried from the earth. Jesus took his blood that was shed on this earth and shed it, put it on the mercy seat of the Father. And now that's where it is today, not crying from the earth. And he took all the blood that cried from the earth of the saints that were firstborn into the kingdom of heaven by the hand of Jesus Christ. He took those to heaven with him. And he was the mediator that sprinkled the blood. He was the one that stood between those of the Old Testament and God. He is the one that stands today in the presence of God, the mediator for you and I. And he is in the General Assembly of the firstborn into the kingdom of heaven. And we're going to be the secondborn into the kingdom of heaven. Another generation coming, one behind the other, to the end of the generations on this earth are going to be with God forever, those that accept him. And that's where we need to be today.